That is a gift from mathematicians in the past figured that out. Okay?
Have you ever done the proof for that?
I was going to ask you if you wanted to see it, but I felt like it was, you don't want to see it? Yeah. I could show it to you.
No.
I was actually looking at time. I was like, I might have enough time to prove the quadratic formula.
My little brother can
Yeah.
do it, I can't.
It's actually not that bad. If you've ever done completing the square, it's basically completing the square. But okay, so this is the formula. We're just going to use it. So what you have to do is make sure you have a quadratic equation equals 0. What? Oh, I wrote it down wrong. Okay, thank you. That would have caused a problem. So what did I say the first step was? You got to make sure you have a quadratic equation equals 0. We don't. So how do I take care of that 30? Subtract 30 on both sides. So that's going to change the problem to, what, minus 22? Because you're taking the 8 that was already there and you're subtracting 30 on both sides. I'm not showing that step. Subtract 30, you get this. Now it looks like this, right? So I can just identify what A is. What's A for us? 5. What's B? -4. And C is -22. All we're concerned with is the numbers. We don't need the x's, okay? Just the numbers, the coefficients, if you like math terms. Okay, x is equal to, all right, we need -b, which is the opposite of b, of -4, right? So 4, good. Plus or minus square root. Now, b squared. That's -4 squared, right?
16.
Which is positive 16. This piece right here, this b squared, no matter what, will always be a positive number because you're squaring a number, right? So it's always positive, no matter what. And then we have minus, now this is where most people make the mistakes, -4 times A is 5, times C, which is -22. Do not forget the negative sign. Then all over 2 times 5, 2 times A. And that's it for the formula. This is 4 plus or minus square root. And I said this is where most people get in trouble. Right here, putting all this together to figure out what this is. People mess up the signs on this. So here's the way I like to kind of tell people, if you don't want to think too hard about it, all right? Let me ask you this. If I take two numbers that are both negative and multiply them, what do I get? Positive. So if I have 2 negatives, I get a positive, yes? What happens if I have 3 negatives? I would get negative, right? Because it would be like the first 2 would give you positive, and then you do another negative, it'd be negative, right? What you need to do here to figure out what's going to happen is just count how many minus signs you see here. So how many minus signs do you see here? 2. 2 together should give you a positive, right? So I'm going to put a plus here, all right? What if this was a -5? Then that would be minus. With me? What if that was positive 22? This would be minus, because you only see one negative sign. Does that make sense? Okay. That's if you don't want to have to think about it too much. All right, there we go. So this should be now plus, but now I need to multiply these numbers together. So 4 times 5 times 22. That's 20 times 22, which is 440. And then all of this over 10. And then this equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 456 all over 10. And now we could get on our calculators and take the square root of 456. Anybody have their calculator to do that? What is it? 21.35. So now we have 4 plus or minus 21.35. And you had more decimals than that, right? But that's okay. We're just going to round like 2 decimal places. We're good, right? We're not trying to put a man on the moon here. We're just trying to get a decimal approximation. So we have 4 plus or minus this number over 10. Okay? Now, I'm getting the decimal answer here, right? We could have simplified the radical and done some other stuff, but I want the decimal answer because later on when we're graphing these things, these are going to be like x-intercepts, and we want to know where they are in the number line. So a decimal is a good way to do that. So all I need to do now is I'm going to put equals, okay, that's like this, equals right here. Now I have two different answers, don't I? I have one answer is when I add, and the other one's when I subtract. So what I like to do is I like to draw two arrows for my two different answers. And this one is the plus, and this one is the minus. So if I do the plus, I get 4 plus 21.35 divided by 10, and then the other one is 4 minus 21.35 divided by 10. I have to add these together before I divide by the 10. So on your calculator, you'll have to do the 4 plus that's 25.35. Divide that by 10, and you should get 2.535. And then over here, I won't be able to do that one as easily. 16. So when you subtract, it's negative 17.35, right? And then divide, oh, that's not so bad. Negative 1.735. All right, those are your solutions. Last one. It looks like I'm not going to have any time to put you in groups, which means this is going to be your first homework assignment, is to finish this out. But let me at least do 31 or 32, your choice. 32?
You want us to put boxes around our answers?
You don't have to. It would be nice if I could find your answer easily. All right, so 32. They give you a function, f of x. Do y'all remember doing this in 1324? And they ask you to find, first of all, in part A, f of 3, which means all you do is replace all your x's with 3's. Is that pretty straightforward? All right, I'll just write it up here. Negative 2, here's my 3, I square it, plus 7 times 3, and then minus 5. And order of operations, I'm supposed to square this first, right? Yeah. So that's 9. So I have negative 2 times 9 plus 7 times 3 minus 5. Notice I've used two different notations for multiplication. I just want to point it out because you're fine to do it. This is the same thing, negative 2 times 9, and this is 7 times 3. Here I use parentheses, here I used a dot. They mean the same thing, you can use either one, all right? Okay, so now I do negative 18 here, plus 21 minus 5. And what does that come out to be? Negative 2? Negative 2. I might run out of time here. In fact, I know there's no way I'm going to get to part D. So why don't we just say this? For homework, you can try to finish out 32 if you want and 31, but I'll cover that when we come back. But I do have two things in the last few minutes for you to look at, and I also want to pass around the attendance sheet. So I take attendance. I have to take attendance, and you'll find your name and then today's date. Just initial. It's a little tiny box. Just initial in there. Pass that around. I want to talk about this right here. So what is that? 16? Negative 16? So you probably have one of those two answers in your head. It's either 16 or negative 16. Do you want to vote? Are you going to be all mad or sad, or your feelings are going to get hurt if you're wrong? Okay, let's vote. 16, positive 16. Okay, negative 16. Okay, the answer is negative 16. Now, why? Because there's a difference between that and this. Okay, parentheses mean everything in this. What this actually means is negative 1 times 4 squared. That's what that means. This one means, well, you could write it as negative 1 times 4 squared, but it doesn't matter. Whatever this is, right, whatever it is getting squared. This squared here is only acting on that 4. It's not acting on the negative sign because there was no parenthesis. So here, you would do 4 squared first, because order of operations, and then you would multiply that times negative 1. Y'all with me? Okay, here's another one for you. Okay, we're going to take a vote. Okay, anyone want to tell me what they think the answer is? 1? 16? Okay, so let's take a vote. Anyone have something other than 1 or 16? Okay, that's a division. That's like that old school division symbol. Yeah. Let's vote. 1, 16. It's about half and half. The answer is 16. Now, why is it 16? You divide before you multiply? Okay, so hold on. Have y'all learned that before? PEMDAS?
Because we know like the same multiplication and division, like whichever comes first.
Yeah, so look, when I was in grade school, I was taught this incorrectly, and it wasn't until later on that I was taught correctly. I was pretty upset about it. All right? So the way it's taught a lot of times is that you're supposed to just do this in this order: parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. That's the order. That is incorrect, though. It's actually multiplication, division, and addition, subtraction are on the same level. They are done. Multiplication does not necessarily have to go before division. So to determine which of these goes first is the way they appear as you read it from left to right like a book. So I have multiplication, division here. People who have been instructed to follow this order would have done the multiplication first and got 12, and then done 12 divided by 12 to get 1, and that's incorrect. The proper way is you read it from left to right. Division first, these two together is 4 times 4, that's 16. Okay? So these are just little ancillary things that I had enough time to talk about. All right, so you know what you need to do for homework, right? What? Do your best on this worksheet. Come with questions if you have them. And there's something else you're supposed to do. That quiz online. Verify that you are okay with the syllabus. Everybody have a good day. I'll hang out if anyone has any questions.